Ladies and gentlemen, today is May 7th, 2015, and this is the KNKL Show, episode 227, where we normally learn to be better artists, but today is Thoughtful Thursday. My door is not closed, but that's okay, because today we're going to be talking about conquering fear and not being afraid of things. And I think we should go ahead and get right into that, shall we? So, the reason for this talk is because I have been noticing more than ever lately that even though like a lot of things have happened in my life and I would consider myself at a point where, like I had a goal. I had a goal that I wanted to get my own apartment. You guys have been watching this show, maybe some of you for a couple of years now. And not too long ago, I moved back from California to Utah. And then I said, hey, you know what would be really cool? I would love to have my own place. I would love to have my own apartment with my buddies and my brother, and I would just like to live there and make my comic, right? And then maybe get a job working for Riot Games again. Wouldn't that just be dandy? And now it's like those things have now started happening. And you could say that, okay, so in the past, I had this dream for where I wanted to get, right? And now I have arrived, right? I have arrived. But you know what's interesting to kind of get caught up in is the fear of once you get something, the fear that you're gonna lose it, right? This is oftentimes the mentality that I see people with, jobs. It's like a lot of people set up their lives so that way they have one point of failure. If one thing goes wrong, like they get fired from their job, then the whole world like just comes undone. Like their entire like universe gets shattered, right? And lately I've been noticing the sort of like the way that having multiple basically fail-safe set up, right? Like say you go skydiving, right? Most of the time they're going to have not just one parachute, right? But they're going to have two, right? You're going to have two fail-safe measurements that you can take, or rather, just fail-safe measures that you can take, right? Because it would be really bad if you're going skydiving, right, and you pull the ripcord and then the parachute just flies off your back and it's just like waving in the wind and, you don't got anything else. And a lot of people set up their lives that way. They're going on a skydive and they only got one chute, right? They only got one chute. They don't have the backup. So lately, and again, I have mostly you guys to thank for this because I have started up things like the Patreon, right, where you guys can go and download the PSDs and help support the show. And I really am grateful for that. And you guys have been supporting the comic, even though I haven't been making the dang thing. Like I need to get back to it, and I am going to get back to it. But I really do appreciate all that stuff. But what I'm really trying to get at here is I'm not just trying to like impress you and be like, oh, look at how I set up my life so it's like fail safe. The reason why I'm doing this, the reason why I'm telling you this is because I'm hoping to impress upon you. Basically, a lot of people say that, oh, I really want to do this, but I'm just like afraid, right? And that's kind of like quitting before you start, right? There's two basic fears that come into your life, right? The fear of failing, right? So you don't even start, right? Because you'd rather not fail and be disappointed in yourself. So you're like, oh, well, maybe that's not for me. Maybe I should do something else, right? So you just kind of stick yourself in one place. You never start. So you avoid that fear. But then the other fear is that when you actually get there, when you actually get what you wanted, now you're afraid of losing it. So the reason why I'm bringing this up, no more single points of failure. And I'm talking in many ways. I'm not just talking financial, right? You can set up in a way, even if they're just little things, right? You should be selling prints. You could make a Patreon, even if you get like $5, it's $5 more than you were making before, just start small. And another thing that comes to my mind is that people look at what the YouTube channel is today, right? They come into the channel and they're like, oh, wow, he has like 18,000 subscribers. Whoa, he must have just started this show a week ago. He must have just started this show. Man, and look at the quality, right? It's amazing, right? You just got like one little camera, right? And then the background is just like my room, right? It's like not even like properly set up or really even that impressive. You got like an amp and it's just kind of messy. You got like a couple balls over there for my back. It's for massaging. Now, moving on. But it's like, it's not really that crazy of a setup, right? I enjoy doing this, but I knew that when I started the show, you guys have heard this many, many times, I started the show for myself. Started the show just because I wanted to get better at speaking. I wanted to build confidence in myself. And that was me basically building another safety wall within my own sort of like mentality, right? I wanted to become comfortable with speaking. And I still have challenges when it comes to this type of stuff. When it comes to speaking up in meetings, right? If you ever go to work in a studio for like a video game company or whatever, you go to these meetings and sometimes you'll want to say something, but everybody's like too busy like arguing back and forth and saying something, and like the other guy is just waiting for the other guy to shut his mouth so he can say something. And so like being able to speak to you guys has helped me build confidence in those areas, and I still struggle with it. So trust me, I know it's very hard. But anyway, okay, so conquering fear, I really think it has to do with no more single points of failure, right? Now let's talk about health. Okay? So, because if you're to think about your life, what comprises your happiness and fulfillment in life, you could break it down into 4 simple pillars. It's health, wealth, love, and happiness, right? Let's start with health. Health is obviously going to be, hey, you're an artist, right? So make sure that you're taking breaks. This is one of the most important things that I've told you guys to do, because oftentimes I have people coming to me and say, Keenan, I really want to do art. I really want to do art professionally, and I want to be an amazing artist, but I just work for 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, and I don't take any breaks. And then at the end of the day, my hand hurts. I feel like I'm going to have to like get carpal tunnel surgery. They're going to have to like split my hand open and like move the tendons back over because I didn't learn how to take breaks. So there's just an example, right? But then even more importantly than just your hand, what about the rest of your body? What kind of foods are you eating? And I know this sounds like really, really preachy, but it's like you really got to keep this in mind. And the reason why I put this at the front is because if you don't have health, if you don't have your body, you don't have anything else. You don't have anything else. It's like, obviously Steve Jobs lived a happy life, but my friend actually told me something that was actually very interesting, and it made me think a lot. When Steve Jobs was laying on his deathbed, right? He said, I bet you with all the money that he amassed, all the success that he amassed, everything that he had created for himself, he probably looked out the window at some regular guy walking down the street with his body intact and he was completely healthy, knowing that he would give everything to be that guy. So that's why I say, and it made me think about that. I was like, yeah, you know what? Health is very, very important. You got to make sure you're in good health. Take care of your body. Plan to be here for a little while because you got some really cool stuff you got to make. You got some cool stuff you got to bring to the world. In order to do that, you actually have to be here, right? You can't create your awesome novel. You can't create your comic laying in the hospital bed. So make sure you're taking care of yourself. I want you guys to be, and the best advice I can give you is taking breaks. Take breaks. Rest your hand because, depending on, I don't know if it's just like a hereditary thing, but I would always have problems in my wrist. Like here, you guys will see me, I do this all the time. Like I'll actually like rub my thumb, or rather this part, against this bone right here. And I'm not massaging my wrist, I'm massaging this tendon because I used to have really bad tendonitis when I would work for 8 to 10 hours a day and not take proper breaks to stretch because... Here it is, because I was afraid that, if I'm not working constantly, they're probably going to fire me. Oh no. And then because this is the only thing I have, going for me, oh man, I'm just going to be screwed, right? I'm going to be screwed. So the fear, started degrading my health over the time. All right. So, just making sure. Thank you very much for taking care of, the people in the chat. I love my moderators. You guys are awesome. So anyway, moving on. So let's move on to wealth. Okay. So this is the other thing that I talked about. Learn, and I know you guys are coming from all different walks in life, but you want to set up your wealth, or rather your income. You want to think about little ways, a bunch of different things that you can do to bring in income, whether it's Patreon, whether it's, your big studio job, whether it's going to cons and selling prints. Think of little ways that you can, bring in income, because it is important. Like, and here's the disclaimer, right? I really believe that money is only so important up to a certain point, right? Once you're able to live very comfortably, right? You get to that point where you have more than enough. It just like anything past that, you start getting very heavy diminishing returns. And there's actually been studies done on this. And it was nice to know that there's actually been like scientific studies and like surveys and research and all this stuff. All these like hundreds of people have gone out there and done all this research for me. So I can just take their word on it and say, hey, yeah, you know what? I kind of felt that way too. I feel like you just got to get to that point where you're, I think the figure was actually right around like 60 to 70,000, right? And that's usually what you're going to be making once you work in a studio, right? You're not going to be making that working at the mall, right? And that's why a lot of those people, you ever notice you work in retail, you work at Olive Garden, a lot of those people are a little bit on edge, And there's a reason for that. It's because they're always on the edge. They're living on the edge financially. And more than likely, they haven't set up any sort of safety net. You know what I mean? Like they're just going from paycheck to paycheck. I'm sure you've learned that. And again, there's only so much of that. Like there's two arguments to this. One is like, oh, well, they're stuck there. Well, they're stuck there. They were born into bad circumstances. They just had everything going against them and the cards were stacked against them. And I really think that can be true. I really believe that can be true. Some people do have it harder than others. Some people have it almost impossibly hard. But I'll tell you what, life hands you a deck of cards, and your job is not to complain, wishing that it was better. Your job is to play it the best you can. So, and that basically comes into my next kind of thought, and that is that a lot of people, another type of fear, and this is one that I have a lot of, being a man, right? You want to be able to provide. You want to be able to start, you just basically want to be able to provide, protect, say, your family, this and that, your dojo, you want to protect your kingdom, and all the time what you want to do is you want to say, okay, all right, so I must be doing good because this guy over there, I'm doing better than him, right? I'm healthier than him. I make more money than him. I have more love than him. My girlfriend's hotter. Well, she is, but you know what I mean? It's like, but what I want you to be careful of is that you don't want to fall into this comparison game, because comparing is a form of fear. You compare yourself to other people to extinguish the fear, the insecurity that you have within yourself. It's like, oh, am I still doing good? Oh, let me just find somebody that I'm better than, so that way I can feel good about myself. And you want to be very careful about doing that. It is good to, understand, be grateful for what you have. But be very careful about falling into this thing where you look down on others. You look down on others, be like, oh yeah, I'm definitely, my life's good because this guy over there, he's not doing as well. You want to get in the attitude of competing with yourself. This is the mentality that Michael Jordan had. And when you get into that mentality, basically you will become the best. But the thing is that you won't care because you're not even bothering. It's like the other people that are too busy like looking at each other to see how they're doing, you are like past that. You're on another level where you're not even competing with those people anymore. You are now competing with yourself. So this can kind of play into what I talked about a couple of weeks ago, where it's like the dark years, becoming a brooding artist, kind of finding time for yourself, developing your style, figuring out what you actually want to do with your life, right? And just before I go into questions, I want to say something about figuring out what you want to do with your life. A lot of people say, oh, I just don't know what my purpose is. If I had purpose, or I had like a vision of what my life could be, then I'd be motivated. But unfortunately, I just don't have that. And let me tell you a quick little thing. This could be an entire daily on itself, but a cool little trick that I learned to find your purpose in life is to not ask, not necessarily what you want to do or what you want to get. What you want to ask yourself is why. Why are you going to do something? Why, like, what feelings are you hoping to get from whatever it is you're going to bring to the world? And how is it going to serve others? That's another really important thing. How are you going to serve others? And basically, what feeling are you going to get from that? Do you want to be charitable? Do you want to give back to the world? I wanted to do something for free. I wanted to give quality. I wanted to release a comic. I wanted to do a show. And the reason why I do those things is because I love the feeling of giving back. I love the feeling of feeling like I have more than enough. I have plenty to give. I have skills. I have resources. I have, like I have rooms in my apartment. It's like whatever. It's like have abundance. And I like having that feeling. So I pursue those, and do you realize that once you figure out the why, Now you realize that, oh, okay, so it's not necessarily that I have to do a show. I didn't have to make a show. I didn't have to make a comic, but I just wanted to give something back to the world. I wanted to inspire people. I wanted to give them ideas. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. This is just one of the avenues that I've taken. So if you've been having some trouble figuring out purpose in your life, ask yourself the why. Ask yourself the feeling you're trying to fulfill within you, not what you're trying to get out of it, or not what you're trying to get or where you're trying to go. All right. So before we end today, I'm going to open up the question catapults. Isabel, now would be a good time for a topic. Yes. Please cast your questions over the castle walls, and I'll answer them. I was a good little boy, and I removed all the things from my desktop that you were not supposed to see. Yes! I am so good. Yes. Any questions you have, please ask them. Isabel, this is the time to offer up your topic, and I can expand upon that. Ideally, keep your art questions for Tuesdays. Today is specifically about mental game. Hope you guys have been enjoying yourselves. This has been such a good day. I actually really like this new light. What do you guys think? I feel like it makes the room, it's still a little bit orange. It's still a little bit pink. I don't know. I kind of like it. Anyway, questions coming in. Shadowcat's asking, what advice do you have for those who don't take critiques well? Oh, great question. I love your question. Some people have too much pride or always take a critique as a direct attack, even though the person critiquing is just trying to help. Here's what I've found the best way to take critiques is. And, okay, so there's a couple ways to go about this. One, if it's your client, basically this is the way it goes. The client is basically always right. Whatever they say they want you to do, you go ahead and do it, right? The way that I like to bid out my jobs is anticipating that they're going to want feedback. Don't ever think that you're going to work for some freelance gig and it's going to be perfect the first time. That is on you. That was your fault. So make sure you bid in a little bit of extra money, a little bit extra time to allow for adjustments. So that way when they say, hey, you know what? I think it would be cool if this person had pink skin and elf ears, right? You're like, yeah, you know what? That would be freaking awesome. Let's do that. And then you can just jump into it. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about the critique. Don't even worry about them trying to change it. And but here's the other thing that I will say. Basically, whenever it's a profession, anything that you're being paid to do, the best thing I've found to do is to actually just agree with it. Just agree with whatever critique or whatever is coming your way. Okay? And the reason why I do this is for two reasons. One is because it's really never beneficial to get into an argument, right? And second of all, it actually puts the person off guard. It makes them more interested to see your point, right? You can argue your point, but the best thing for you to do is to say, hey, you know what? I can totally see where you're coming from on that. You might be right. But this is what I was thinking, or this is what I was trying to accomplish. If you preface it by agreeing with them or saying that what they have to say has value to you, or that you actually care what they have to say, that makes, do you see how now they're like, wow, they actually care what I have to say. So in return, I will care what they have to say. But it can be a lot of pride. There can be a lot of pride. And I dealt with this just today, right? I sent over some work and I got some critique. Like basically it was kind of insinuated that I was possibly wasting time, or that maybe I should be focusing on something else. And you know what my first reaction to that was? I was like, who are you to tell me what to do? You think you can do this? Why don't you just come over and do my job for me if you think you know what's best, right? It's like, why don't you just back off, right? Just back off and let me do my thing. But there's two reasons why I don't overreact to this. Is because A, if it actually is a sort of direct attack, if it is a direct attack where they're trying to kind of pull some power trip over you, or just trying to kind of knock you down a little bit, which is probably not the case, but just in case, it is a thing that's going through my mind. It's like, I wonder if this person is trying to like kind of just throw a little like knife at me, throw a little, like hit me with a little straight pin, right? Trying to stick me in the face with a little, like a push pin, And the first thing that I think of when stuff like that happens is A, nobody ever kicks a dead dog, right? It's like if that person wasn't threatened by you, if that person was actually like didn't care about your work or thought it was nice, or if that person didn't think what you were doing was of quality, they probably wouldn't say anything. They wouldn't say anything because they're not threatened by you. But if they are threatened by you and they do say something to try to knock you down, you need to take that as a compliment because, like I said, nobody kicks a dead dog. A dead dog is not a threat. But if you are a dog in his prime, kicking butt and making awesome stuff, they might get a little jealous. They might try to kind of like put you down slightly or tell you what you're doing is the wrong direction or that you're doing something the wrong way. Okay? But that is usually not the case. They actually are trying to help. So in all cases, I always try to see it from their angle first. I always try to agree with them and try to see where they're coming from, and then I will throw in, this is what I was trying to accomplish. What do you think? Does that do that? And yeah, that's my advice on critiques. All right, couple questions. I did linger on that one for quite a while, but it was such a good question. Next question. Isabel. Okay, what do you think about family problems? This is a very, very tough one because, again, I'm not in your shoes, but I've found that if there's issues with like family, or you feel that your family isn't very supportive of you, or if there's a very negative influence happening within your very own, like people that are that close to you, there's basically two things that you can do, right? Either you got to get out or you got to learn how to deal with it, right? You got to learn how to live with it, right? And if you have been doing so for so long, right? If you've been living this for years, like my suggestion to you is to try to stick it out, limit yourself. Like you can love someone, but you don't have to like interact with them that much, right? Love them from afar. Tell them you need some space. But if it is a serious situation, then my suggestion to you is to figure out how to get the heck out. All right. But again, I'm a little short on experience here, so don't run away because I said so. I have some extra rooms, but I only got so many. All right, questions coming in. Let's see. You might want to separate critique, useless critique. Yeah, just figure out. Yeah, separating if the critique is useless or actually useful. I always assume that it's useful. And then that feeling that comes up where you want to defend yourself, always remember that thing. That it's like no one kicks a dead dog. If someone's kicking you, that means you're doing good. That means you're doing good and keep it up. All right, last question. Oh, Envy995. All right, we'll end on this. Do you think it's worth to give up on everything and pursue your dreams? I think it's worth to give up everything. This is a very interesting question that's been going through my head lately because when I originally quit my job from Riot, I did it because I wanted to work on Emma, because I wanted to make my comic. And when I basically burned those boats and took off from Riot, and then I said, this is it. Like, it's like I either make this comic or, it's like, it's this or nothing. It's all or nothing. Whenever I do something like that, I feel like certain people thrive off of this. Some people can crumble under this pressure, and I wouldn't recommend this for everybody. But then there's other people that really thrive off of this. There's people that thrive off of crazy, intense pressure, right? When there is no way out except for the one thing that you said you were going to do. And I personally believe that, I'm one of these people. I'm one of the people that and it's a double-edged sword, right? Because the other side of it is that these types of people can get comfortable, right? Once you start, it's like, oh yeah, my life's, it's pretty easy, right? I can just draw my pictures and do my little work, right? And I get my paycheck and then everything's good, everything's fine, But the other thing is where's the adventure? Where was that sense of excitement that I got every day? That sense of uncertainty, right? Waking up every day not knowing exactly what was going to happen, right? I look back on those days as a very important time in my life. It was a time where I learned more about myself than any other time, because the other thing that I've heard said is that when you're in that mode of certainty, when you're in uncertainty, you will find your passion quicker than you ever could have otherwise. If you're comfortable, it's hard to find your passion. But in the realm of uncertainty, passion can be found. And so I would recommend, okay, now again, take this with a grain of salt. Just throw it in with your list of opportunity or your list of choices. The younger you are, the crazier you can get, right? The younger you are, the crazier you can get. If you're single, if you don't have a family, you don't have mouths to feed, if it's just you, my advice to you is to get a little crazy. Try something crazy. Leave some stuff behind. Leave some stuff behind. Get some more time to yourself for what you want to create. And I guarantee you, you'll find out really quickly if you have the guts to make it. You'll find out if you have what it takes inside to make what you said you were going to make the comic, to make the novel, the TV show or the YouTube show. Give it a shot and be okay with the thought of that it might fail. It might fail, because that's what I thought. I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to quit this job that I've worked my entire life to get. I'm going to make a comic, and it might suck. It might fail. I might not make a dime off of it. But it was more important than that. It wasn't just about money. It was about, again, those things that the intangibles, right? The things that go into my happiness, the things that go into my fulfillment. Giving back something, creating something for somebody, entertaining people. I love to entertain people. So, ask yourself those whys. Again, find the reason why you would do something like that. Then consider the option of getting a little crazy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to end today's show. Thank you so much for joining me live on Twitch. People on YouTube, thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. My name is Keenan Lafferty. You guys take care of yourselves. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next Tuesday, where we will be continuing our isometric views tutorial. And until then, you guys take care.